Hello, everyone. This is Humanitarian Horizons, and I am Christina DiArcangelo. Today, we're talking about something that can no longer be viewed only through the lenses of policy or enforcement. Across the country, immigration operations are unfolding in ways that are leaving communities traumatized, civilians injured, agents under threats, and entire cities on edge. What we are witnessing is not just a political debate, it's a growing humanitarian crisis, in my opinion. In the recent weeks, reports from cities like Minneapolis and others have shown a disturbing rise in violent confrontation connected to immigration enforcement. Civilians driving vehicles into federal agents, agents responding with force, people being shot, families watching events unfold in fear. These are not isolated moments. They are symptoms of a deeper breakdown of trust, communication, and humanity. When enforcement operations are perceived as unpredictable or aggressive, fear takes over. And when fear takes over, rational behavior disappears. From a humanitarian perspective, this is the most critical issue. Civilians, many of them are immigrants, families of immigrants, and workers are living in a constant state of anxiety. Yes, they're afraid to drive. They're afraid to go to work, afraid to seek medical care, afraid to leave their homes. At the same time, federal agents are being placed into the situation where they have to apprehend these illegal immigrants who are criminals that have committed previous criminal infractions and are being deported from our country. This, for everyone involved, is not sustainable. And it's not a humane situation for anybody at all. Violence does not begin with a weapon, it begins with fear. We are now seeing fear escalate. There have been confirmed cases of civilians attempting to flee enforcement encounters by driving their vehicles, sometimes directly into the officers, directly into the cops, into the ICE agents. These actions are dangerous, illegal, and tragic. They are putting lives at risk on both sides. But humanitarian work demands we ask people, why are they reaching to this point? What conditions create a reality where civilians believe their only option is to flee in panic? Where an agent believes that lethal force may be the only way that he or she will survive? This is what's happening out there. Humanitarian Horizons does not frame this as law enforcement versus civilians. Let me be clear about that. I don't want to hear anything about this. I don't want to hear what is wrong with Christina DiArcangelo. Why is she doing this? No, no. I am talking about a very serious issue. This is why I'm here, is to talk about these things, to try to educate people and maybe change someone's opinion, okay, of what's really going on. The rule of law matters. Public safety matters. Border policy matters. Again, this isn't a political thing. All right. We know what happened in the previous administration. Okay. The current administration is still trying to clean this up. Okay. That's what's going on. And they were told during the election that this was going to happen. They didn't foreshadow that people would be doing the things that they're doing, driving cars into ICE agents and shooting people and all the things that's happening. But when enforcement becomes overwhelming, unpredictable, it ceases to function as protection and begins to function as trauma. And trauma breeds more trauma. What we are seeing is not simply the failure of individuals, it's the failure of systems. Failure to communicate clearly with communities, failure to prioritize de-escalation situations, failure to ensure humanitarian safeguards are in place, failure to recognize that fear-driven enforcement leads to chaos. A humanitarian response requires acknowledging that people are not statistics. They are patients. Children, workers, caregivers, nurses, doctors, handymen, all kinds of people. And we cannot forget that the ICE agents are humans too. That is someone's wife or husband or cousin or brother or sister or whatever. These people, just like it said, just like I said, are people. No one should be sent into situations where violence becomes inevitable. When violence becomes normalized, when shootings, vehicle assaults, and armed encounters become routine, we are no longer talking about policy. We are talking about lives that are being lost unnecessarily. We're talking about children watching parents being detained, communities watching neighbors being harmed, agents watching colleagues get injured or killed. This is the moment where humanitarian principles must be remembered and introduced into conversations before escalation becomes irreversible. There is a humanitarian path forward. I truly believe it. And what I think it should include is de-escalation training as a priority, not an afterthought, clear protocols that minimize civilian panic. Now, listen, there's also the aspect that there's people out there with their own opinions, right, about what's going on. And they do not agree with the ICE detainees. Now, I just talked about on my previous podcast about, freedom of speech and being able to talk about things and ask questions. They too are allowed to have an opinion. However, that does not mean that the opinion they have allows them to I can't even get the words out. I can't even believe this is happening. Commit a crime in the process. Okay. They may not be happy with what's happening with the detainees. Okay. They may not be happy about that. However, that doesn't mean that you are supposed to be ramming your car into people, jumping out, spitting on people, bringing weapons, throwing bricks at I mean, I just can't even believe all this is going on. I mean, this is craziness. This is absolutely, this reminds me of the summer when Biden was still in, and there was all that unrest with the illegal gangs that were in the United States running around. Do you remember that? It was pretty crazy. Okay. We're back to that again. And do these people not remember what happened back then and what we're trying to get away from? We don't want this in our United States. This is our country. Listen, my family came over illegally, but they came over the right way. Okay. Everybody can come over the right way. That's what you're supposed to do. Transparency and accountability when, it needs to happen. Protection of human rights needs to happen. Community engagement needs to happen in a peaceful manner. They too need to act in a peaceful manner. They're starting out aggressive. I mean, before anything even happens, I'm seeing this stuff. It's terrible. A notion of goodwill really needs to happen out there. I really believe that. I feel like we need to have a sit down, like a big sit down and try and get this straightened out because this is out of control. This is absolutely out of control. A nation cannot enforce its laws by abandoning humanity. You can't abandon humanity and not enforce laws. You have to enforce the laws of our Constitution, right? And It cannot protect its people by allowing fear to replace trust. If we want safer communities for civilians and for agents, we must confront the moment honestly. That's what I just said. I said we should have a sit down and have a meeting about this and try and talk about this and try and get this together because this is horrific. And there has to be facts and there has to be the truth. And we have to get rid of all of the emotions. Listen, I'm a very emotional person. I mean, holy cow. I'm Italian for God's sakes, but we've got to get rid of these emotions. We've got to talk like this is a business. Yes. And still have compassion and still have empathy and be able to talk with courage to say when something is no longer working because it's not working. This is not about sides. I'm so tired of people saying this to me all the time. They're always in my face about this because I'm a podcaster and they want to go, well, what do you think? What's your side? What do you think? There is no side. Okay. There's right and there's wrong. Okay. And you make that choice. Okay. This is about lives. This is Humanitarian Horizons. And the horizon we should be moving forward towards is one where safety, dignity, and humanity are not sacrificed in the name of law enforcement, but strengthened by it. Thank you so much for joining me today. I'm sorry if I seem like I was on a soapbox or whatever. I'm not trying to be somebody who dictates from wherever I am. I really do this because I want to help people. And I really do this because I want people to understand what's happening out there because I feel like that's my job. So thank you for joining me today. And I'll see you again soon. Bye bye for now.